You're the answer to somebody's prayers. So why aren't you acting like it? And I'm speaking to myself about this too. But too many of us are not walking in where we're supposed to be at. And we're not walking in full obedience and full of submission. And we're relying on these contracts, jobs that are safeguards to our egos and expectations and what our mommies and daddies told us to do. When in actuality, that's why we're grieving and slowly rotting away. But anyway, the longer that you're disobedient, the longer someone else gets to suffer. I'm gonna give you Bible on this too. The Hebrews prayed and cried out to God in unison for a deliverer when they were enslaved in Egypt. And 30 years later, Moses was grown. So at that moment, Moses was born. Right after everybody cried out, and then 30 years later, he then started to walk into it, and that's when he fled Egypt. And then he came back several decades later to deliver those same people who cried out what felt like a lifetime ago. Joseph in the Old Testament saved nations, including Egypt and all the surrounding nations, from a famine when he answered his call. Jesus, the Messiah, everybody prophesied what he was going to do from the beginning to the end. And when he was born, in every step of his short 33 and a half year old life, 33 and a half years of life, he was fully obedient, and his obedience set all of creation free and put it back in its rightful place. So everything you do matters. Every breath you take matters. Because if not, that's why we get the pedophiles and the Epstein crap. That's why all these babies are suffering the carnage and the defilement and the wretched debauchery that they have to go through, because we, as people and as caretakers who are ahead of households, groups, teams, regions, are not doing what God has appointed us to do in our due time and in our due role in our purpose. So when there's all this disalignment, there's room for the enemy to snatch our people up that we're supposed to be protecting. Because if everybody did what they're supposed to do, there would be no Epsteins. There'd be no people who support Epsteins. There would be no people who are funding Epsteins that are still free. So yeah, I'm mad. But I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to continue to be obedient in my season. So when people see what God is doing in my life, they're going to go closer to him instead of going closer to their depravity and their vices that are going to lead them to the wicked things such as the Epsteins or the Diddy stuff. And sometimes true obedience takes us to be bold enough to snatch these people out of these slaveries. Whether it's by a compliment, whether you enrich somebody's heart so much that they're not going to go to that person's house because they're feeling low at that time. They're not going to visit that older man. They're not going to respond to that mysterious old lady online because you spoke into their life. Even if it was a stranger. Even if you didn't feel like it. That one compliment had a whole ripple effect. One of my coworkers, my great-grandmother spoke into her and told her how beautiful she was some odd years ago. And then today, and even before that, she spoke into me, not even knowing it. So my great-grandmother's obedience not only blessed my coworker's life, and God knows how many other people, but blessed her first great-grandbaby. So what you do matters. Your obedience matters. So somebody is waiting on you to do what you're supposed to do. So you better act like it. Because there are tears flowing. There is abuse taking place of all kinds until we decide to step up and follow the path God wants us to. That's it.